For years, my sister gave me nothing but pathetic, cheap gifts, so I went ahead and bought the one thing she'd always dreamed of, and kept it all for myself. For years, my sister had been giving me inexpensive gifts, so I decided to buy myself the one thing she had always wanted. I'm a 27-year-old woman with a 25-year-old younger sister. Growing up, we were close, but there was always a peculiar tension, a mix of affection and subtle competition. She's always been the quirky one, while I've taken on the role of the responsible sibling. This dynamic showed itself in everything, even in the extravagant birthday traditions our family upheld. Birthdays were huge in our household, and everyone made an effort to pick out thoughtful, elaborate gifts. It felt almost like an unspoken contest to see who could give the most impressive present. Yet, my sister always surprised me with gifts that fell short of expectations. It wasn't because they were poorly thought out, but rather because she'd pick items from discount stores, sometimes just minutes before the party started, claiming it was part of her eccentric humor. While everyone would laugh, I never found it funny. It's not that I expected extravagant gifts, but I always took the time and effort to choose something special for her. One year, I spent about $200 on a personalized necklace with her favorite gemstone, and in return, she gave me a $5 coffee mug with a cheeky phrase like, "I'd agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong." Another time, I bought her a limited edition art piece she'd admired, and she gave me a pair of mismatched socks. It wasn't about the price of the gifts, it was the lack of thought behind them. I'd smile and thank her, but inside, it stung. Our parents always made excuses for her, saying things like, "She's just artistic, honey," or "That's her way of showing love." I heard those phrases so often, I could recite them by heart. The truth was, she wasn't eccentric, she just didn't care enough to make an effort. It might have been acceptable if she didn't have such specific desires. She was obsessed with a designer handbag, a $2,000 piece that seemed unattainable to most, but she talked about it like it was her life's goal. She'd post about it constantly, pin it on Pinterest, and once even said she was manifesting it. She'd claim she was saving up for it, but then spend her money on concert tickets, clothes, and gadgets she didn't need. In our family, it became a running joke, "Oh, that handbag, I bet she won't buy it this year." The turning point for me came when I got a large bonus at work, a reward for months of hard work and sleepless nights. For the first time in a while, I had money to treat myself, so I decided to do just that. I walked into luxury stores I normally avoided, and there it was, the handbag my sister dreamed of. I hadn't planned to buy it, but something inside me pushed me to. It felt like the perfect moment to celebrate my hard work and finally do something for myself. So, I bought it. It was an impulsive decision, but as soon as I walked out with the bag, I felt a strange combination of triumph and guilt. I kept telling myself that it wasn't about her, that I wasn't buying it to spite her, but because I wanted it. Still, I couldn't stop wondering how she would react if she found out. When my birthday came, my sister showed up late, as usual, and handed me her gift, a second-hand keychain with a broken piece. She didn't even try to hide her carelessness. Laughing, she said it reminded her of me. I didn't laugh, I simply thanked her and set the keychain aside. As the party continued, something inside me snapped. All those years of feeling ignored and unimportant had built up too much. The next day, I posted a picture of the handbag on Instagram, nothing dramatic, just a simple photo of me holding it with a caption about treating myself. I subtly tagged the brand, hoping my sister would notice. It didn't take long before I received a message, "Why do you have my dream bag?" The moment I saw the message, I knew she wasn't just upset, she was furious. Before I could reply, my phone started ringing. It was her. I picked up, and she immediately launched into a tirade, questioning what my problem was, why I would do something so hurtful, and how I could be so bold as to buy the bag she so desperately wanted. I stayed calm and explained that it wasn't about her. I bought the bag for myself because I liked it and wanted to celebrate. But my explanation wasn't enough. She accused me of being selfish and inconsiderate, saying it was wrong to buy something she'd always wanted, especially knowing how much it meant to her. My dad chimed in, suggesting that maybe I should just let her have it as a kind gesture. I stood firm. I told them about all the cheap, thoughtless gifts she had given me over the years and how I never complained. I pointed out that I always put thought and money into her gifts, and she never reciprocated. My parents' response? "That's just how she is." I could feel my frustration growing, but I remained composed. I told them that the bag wasn't about her, it was something I bought for myself, with my own money, and I didn't owe anyone an explanation. They didn't like this answer. They accused me of being stubborn and petty, reminding me that family relationships mattered more than material things. Things got even more complicated when my sister started posting about the situation on Instagram. She didn't tag me, but it was clear who she was talking about. In one post, she uploaded a picture of the bag with the caption, "Imagine buying this just to hurt someone you're supposed to care about." In another, she wrote, "Some people really don't know how to be a good sibling." At first, I decided to ignore it, thinking she would vent and eventually move on. She acted so cruelly, even going as far as sending me a screenshot of her story where she portrayed herself as the victim, claiming I bought the bag out of spite to ruin her dreams. I felt completely isolated. No one seemed to care about my side of the story. Then, something unexpected happened. Some of my colleagues noticed the bag and complimented it, asking where I got it and remarking on how beautiful it was. For a brief moment, I felt a sense of relief. It reminded me why I had bought it, to reward myself for my hard work and treat myself. However, my sister didn't stop there. That same night, she sent me a lengthy message filled with dramatic words about betrayal and how she could never forgive me. It said something like, "I hope you're happy ruining my dream." I chose not to respond. The next day, my mother called again, suggesting a compromise. She proposed that I give the bag to my sister as a peace offering. I could almost hear her trying to make it sound reasonable, but I wasn't ready to give in. I told her no. I wasn't going to reward my sister's attitude or her sense of entitlement. My mother sighed and remarked that I was being difficult. Meanwhile, my sister escalated her social media posts. Her passive-aggressive attitude shifted into outright hostility. She even shared screenshots of our messages, carefully cropped to make sure nothing in them portrayed her poorly. She added a caption, claiming how disrespected she felt. More messages from mutual friends began to arrive. Some were genuinely confused, asking for my side of the story, while others simply told me I should apologize and give up the bag to maintain peace. One friend even said, "Through all of this, I realized you were being cruel by holding on to something that would mean the world to your sister." However, I wasn't going to give in. The bag was mine, and it wasn't about her, no matter how hard she tried to make me believe otherwise. By the end of the week, I had endured enough drama. I blocked her on social media to stop seeing her constant posts. But that didn't stop her from sending me messages. Each one was a variation of the same thing: emotional blackmail, manipulations, and demands for the bag. I felt like everyone was against me, my sister, my parents, and even some friends. But I wasn't going to give in. For the first time in years, I was putting my own needs first, and I wasn't going to let her take that away from me. Update 2. I didn't want to attend the family dinner after everything that had transpired. I knew it wouldn't be a pleasant evening, but my parents made it clear they expected me to be there, so I reluctantly went, dreading every second of it. When I arrived, the tension was thick in the air. My sister sat at the opposite end of the table, engrossed in her phone and avoiding eye contact. She didn't greet me or acknowledge my presence, which wasn't surprising. My parents, on the other hand, greeted me with forced smiles. It was clear they were trying to keep things civil, but the awkwardness was undeniable. We began eating, and for a while, everyone pretended like everything was normal. We talked about work, the weather, and my cousin's upcoming wedding, but the calm didn't last long. Suddenly, my father put down his fork, cleared his throat, and said, "We need to talk about the bag situation," breaking the silence. I looked at him, but my sister kept her head down, picking at her salad. My mother gave me a pleading look, as if it was up to me to fix things. I calmly explained once again that it was my purchase, with my money, and my decision. I didn't understand why I needed anyone else's approval. That's when my sister finally spoke. Her voice was shaky, and she started to cry. She said she had always felt overshadowed by me and that I had taken something she had dreamed of for years, just to make her feel insignificant. She accused me of flaunting my financial success to highlight her struggles. But she didn't stop there. She listed every offense I had ever committed against her, all of them connected to that designer bag. I waited for her to finish before pointing out the facts. She had plenty of time to save up for the bag if it meant so much to her, but instead, she spent money on other things: trendy clothes, concert tickets, expensive dinners with friends. I reminded her that I had worked hard for my money and that the purchase had nothing to do with her. It was a reward for myself, and I wasn't going to apologize for it. My parents disagreed with my response. They said I was being too harsh and that I needed to consider how my actions had affected my sister. My mother chimed in, saying that family relationships should be prioritized over material possessions. My father nodded, signaling that I should apologize and find a way to resolve the situation. At that point, I asked a question I had been holding in for years. I asked them if they had ever pressured my sister to reciprocate the birthday gifts I had given her, like the necklace, the art print, and all the other times I had tried to make her feel special, only to receive cheap trinkets and second-hand keychains in return. My mother shifted uncomfortably and said it was different because my sister was younger and not as financially stable. My father added that she expressed herself more artistically, as if that justified everything. The room fell silent after those words. My sister suddenly jumped up and stormed out, muttering something about how I was toxic and impossible to deal with. My parents didn't try to stop her. My mother just sighed and told me I should have handled things differently, while my father shook his head, clearly disappointed. I finished my meal in silence and left as soon as I could. The drama, however, didn't end there. Update 3. The next morning, the rest of the family knew about the argument. My sister wasted no time spreading her version of events, conveniently leaving out years of one-sided gifting and her sense of entitlement. My phone started buzzing with messages from relatives, most of whom sided with her. One cousin sent a long message saying family should always come first, and that giving her the bag would be a gesture of love to repair the relationship. I chose not to respond. To my surprise, some people agreed with me, acknowledging that my sister needed to mature, but the majority of others saw me as the antagonist. Eventually, I chose to distance myself. I reduced contact with my parents and ignored most messages from relatives, craving some time away from the ongoing emotional manipulation and chaos. My sister made it clear she wasn't open to viewing the situation from my perspective, while my parents focused on maintaining peace and avoided holding her accountable. For now, I've decided to stay distant. What initially started as a minor disagreement had evolved into something much larger, a culmination of years of unequal treatment and suppressed frustration. I don't know where this will ultimately lead, but one thing I am sure of is that I am no longer the one willing to compromise all the time. The situation escalated when my sister took the drama to a much more public platform, social media. She shared a lengthy Instagram story filled with dramatic captions, carefully chosen emojis, and a carefully curated narrative that depicted me as the villain. She labeled me as a selfish sister who bought her dream bag out of spite, accusing me of deliberately crushing her ambitions. She even included screenshots of text conversations that were clearly cropped to make her appear as the victim, alongside a picture of the bag with a caption that claimed it symbolized everything wrong with certain individuals. At first, I just rolled my eyes and tried to ignore it, but as the story gained momentum, friends of friends began commenting, and strangers weighed in. Before long, the post became semi-viral within her social circle. I started receiving messages from unknown people calling me petty, selfish, and worse, and some even tagged me in their responses to her story, adding fuel to the fire. Soon, the hate became overwhelming, with my phone constantly buzzing with notifications, each one reminding me how easily a narrative can spiral out of control. I thought about posting my side of the story, explaining the years of one-sided gift giving, the sense of entitlement, and the truth behind the bag purchase. I even drafted a lengthy message, complete with literal and metaphorical evidence, but ultimately deleted it before sending it. Feeding into the drama wouldn't help, so instead, I vented to a close friend who had been following everything from the start. She listened patiently and gave me the best advice I'd heard in weeks: ignore the noise. She reminded me that most people adding to the controversy didn't know the full story and probably didn't care. Engaging would only make things worse, so I decided to move on. I continued using the bag, not letting the drama control my decisions. At work, my colleagues complimented the bag, unaware of the chaos brewing behind the scenes. Those small moments of normalcy helped more than I expected. However, my sister refused to let it go. She intensified her campaign, pressuring our parents to intervene even further. They called me again, asking if I'd reconsider attending a family meeting to resolve things. I declined, telling them I was tired of putting myself out there. My mom responded, saying my refusal only made things more difficult for everyone. My dad suggested I just give her the bag to end the fight, but I firmly told him no and hung up. At that point, my sister tried a new approach. She began sending me long, emotionally charged messages about how the bag reminded her of everything she'd failed to achieve in life. She portrayed it as a symbol of all the time she hadn't measured up, expressing how devastated she was to see me with it. I chose not to reply to any of those messages, deleting them immediately, and refusing to get involved in her drama. A mutual friend tried to mediate the situation, suggesting my sister save up to buy the bag herself instead of expecting me to give it to her. Predictably, my sister responded by saying she couldn't afford it and that she deserved the bag as compensation for the emotional harm I had caused. The friend expressed frustration at my sister's sense of entitlement but admitted there was little more he could do to mediate. To my surprise, some mutual acquaintances began offering their support discreetly. One friend messaged me privately, saying she saw through my sister's posts and thought the whole situation was ridiculous. Another confided that she had been a victim of my sister's selfishness in the past, and her behavior didn't surprise her. Those messages didn't erase the public hatred I was receiving, but they made me feel less isolated. After yet another passive-aggressive social media comment directed at me, I decided enough was enough. I blocked her on all platforms, knowing it might escalate things further, but it felt like a necessary step to protect my peace. A week later, I discovered the lengths my sister was willing to go. A coworker sent me a link to a GoFundMe campaign she had created, titled something like "Help Me Finally Achieve My Dream." The description was as melodramatic as expected, filled with vague references to a selfish sibling who had wronged her. The goal was $2,000, the exact price of the bag. When I checked, the campaign had raised only a few $100s, mostly from distant relatives and her friends. Some of the comments were frankly ridiculous, with messages of support wishing her happiness and justice. One relative even tagged me in a comment saying, "I hope you're happy now." I considered reporting the campaign for spreading misinformation but ultimately decided it wasn't worth the effort. Seeing her resort to crowdfunding for something she could have saved for herself felt, in a way, like validation. I sent the link to the mutual friend who had tried to mediate, and his response was a mix of disbelief and laughter. For now, I've decided to stay out of it. If my sister wants to make a handbag the hill she's willing to die on, that's her choice. But I've made mine, and I'm not backing down. 5 months have passed, and the conflict over the bag is starting to fade. My sister and I haven't communicated, which has honestly been a relief. I have no plans to reach out and assume she has probably moved on by now. She moved on to her next fixation, so it caught me off guard when, out of nowhere, she reached out to say she was ready to forgive me. Her message was lengthy and packed with her usual theatrics, as she expressed the hurt caused by the situation and how she was ready to move forward. The irony of her words was clear to me, but I didn't respond. I didn't block her either, I just left her message unread, a reminder of how far she'd gone in trying to manipulate me. Soon after, I heard from friends and family that my sister had decided to save up and buy the bag on her own. She had finally realized that neither emotional manipulation nor public displays on social media would make me give it to her. For years, she'd relied on others to get what she wanted, and this was the first time I saw her truly work towards something. It wasn't long before I saw an Instagram post of hers, where she was posing with a counterfeit version of the bag, as if she'd just come out of a high-end boutique. She didn't tag the brand or mention that it was a replica, but anyone familiar with fakes could easily spot it. I didn't comment or react, there was no point. The picture, however, said everything. She was trying to prove something, yet couldn't let go of her obsession with appearances. Meanwhile, the rest of the family seemed eager to smooth things over. Some relatives, who had initially supported my sister, began reaching out, subtly indicating they understood how unnecessary the feud had been. While they never explicitly apologized, their actions felt like an olive branch. At family gatherings, they stopped bringing up the bag entirely, which was a relief. My parents, on the other hand, were a different matter. One evening, my mother called and admitted that perhaps they'd mishandled the situation. She explained that they had been focused on keeping the peace and hadn't realized how much they'd been enabling my sister's behavior. Then, she asked if I would consider apologizing so we could move forward. I politely declined, explaining that I didn't hold a grudge, but I wouldn't apologize for standing up for myself. Respect had to be mutual. Around that time, I noticed a change in the gifts I received from family. Birthdays and holidays started bringing more thoughtful and meaningful presents, almost as if they were trying to make up for years of imbalance. I didn't question it, but I couldn't help but notice. Whether it was out of guilt or genuine effort, I didn't complain. Finally, my sister bought the real bag. I saw it in another Instagram post, this time, it was the genuine article. She made no reference to the drama surrounding it, nor did she mention the months of turmoil it had caused. She simply posted a photo of herself holding it, accompanied by a generic caption, as though everything had been normal all along. By that point, though, I didn't care anymore. The bag was no longer a point of contention, it had become something else entirely, a reminder of why I had to set boundaries. Each time I used it, it didn't just feel like a luxury item, it symbolized my choice to prioritize myself. It wasn't about the money or materialism anymore, it was about regaining control over my life. After that, my sister kept her distance, though not out of hostility. She didn't avoid me, but she didn't make any effort to reconnect either. At family gatherings, we communicated politely, limiting our conversations to superficial topics like work and mutual acquaintances. The dramatic outbursts and passive-aggressive comments faded, replaced by a sort of uneasy truce. Friends and acquaintances stopped bringing up the incident. It seemed everyone had collectively decided to move on from the past. No one wanted to revisit the months of social media battles and family strife, and I, more than anyone, craved that peace. I was just relieved to have moved on from the chaos. The last time I gave the situation any serious thought was during a work trip. While waiting at the airport for my flight, With the bag by my side, a stranger complimented me and asked where I had gotten it. I thanked them, smiled, and answered briefly, not bothering to mention the months of drama it had caused. To me, it was just another bag, albeit one with a story. Looking back, I'm proud of how I handled everything. It wasn't easy, but standing my ground was worth it. For the first time in a long time, I put myself first and didn't let guilt or drama stop me. That, more than anything, is the key takeaway from this experience. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the next story.